childhood was just abusive, was physically and verbally abusive. I remember one time vividly in my head that, I was crying to my father and saying, no one likes me, no one likes me, no one likes me. And he was just like, well, I think it's time for you to change. We're going to have Whiteberry interview me. That's right. You're not hear my testimony. So I'm going to pray, and then we're going to go right into the interview. Lord, thank you for the day. I thank you that we can be here with Whiteberry and I pray that you just continue that you use this testimonial to lead others to you, Father, and that the words I speak are words that encourage people. Let them know that they can live a life with Christ, no matter how their past may have been and how bad their future may look. Christ can change their lives and their future. Their past does not determine their future because they are washed white as snow through Christ. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Whiteberry, passing it on to you.
All right. So, Pastor Josh, first off, it's an honor to be able to come back on here and interview you. So,
you did good the first time. I might as well think you should interview me.
Right. So I want to open this up. What's your favorite Bible verse?
My favorite Bible verse is Matthew 6:34. And I'm going to read it because I want to make sure I say it correctly. It is, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. I love that verse because that verse has gotten me through quite a bit of tough times in my life when I was uncertain about the future and what tomorrow would hold. Right. There's been many times where I've moved around in my life and I didn't really know where I was going to go or what I was going to do. So I live by this verse. I don't worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. Do I plan? Yes, I plan. Do I look ahead? I look ahead. I'm not just flamboyant with my life, but at the same time, I don't worry. I don't stress about tomorrow.
Right. So let's kind of hop into it. So let's go back to around whenever your childhood, your young days. How was that whenever you were growing up? Tell us a little bit about that.
So growing up, I always start here. So I start before I was even born because growing up, my parents got married when they found out that they were pregnant with my brother and I. I have a twin brother. And so when they found out that they were pregnant with my brother and I, they decided to do the right thing and get married. So they got married. And I want to give a caveat here, okay? Because I love both of my parents. Okay. Every woman makes mistakes. Yeah. And so I love my parents dearly. So if you're watching this, just know I love you. But I'm just giving you my testimony here. So they got married, and let's put it this way. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time when you get married, just because you found out you're pregnant, the marriage unfortunately doesn't last.
Right.
Because of one reason or another, here and there, it takes two to mess up a marriage. Okay.
Right.
So what ended up happening is they got married, and 5 years later they got a divorce. Okay. So after the divorce, I'm living with my dad, which isn't typical. Typically it's you live with your mom, but I was living with my dad. And so, long story short is my dad got remarried. My mom got remarried on the same year. And my childhood was just abusive, was physically and verbally abusive. I remember one time vividly in my head that, I was crying to my father and saying, no one likes me, no one likes me, no one likes me. And he was just like, well, I think it's time for you to change. If no one likes you, then change you so people like you. And again, there was physical abuse going on and everything like that. So that's the only thing I knew. I always tell people also that I think I can remember one Christmas where there was no argument in my house.
Wow.
So every holiday, every birthday, all that stuff, there was yelling and screaming. It happened. It happened every night. And you would think Christmas, the most joyful time of the year, there wouldn't be yelling, but there was yelling, and so that's all ingrained in my mind.
Right.
I loved Christmas. I still love Christmas. Birthdays were birthdays.
Yeah, you had to share it. So I mean,
yeah, birthdays.
Shout out to Jonathan.
Thanks, bro. You helped me out with that one. I really enjoy my birthdays now. Honestly, I love my birthdays now, mainly because I've learned now as a Christian that another year living is another year serving Christ. And another year living is another year worth celebrating.
Yeah.
So it birthdays are now an important thing to me. I'm not just like, oh, I lived another year. No, birthdays are important to me now. So
growing up, were y'all involved in church or anything?
So I grew up in Louisiana, with you.
Right.
We grew up Westlake. And majority of Louisiana is Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So no downplaying the Catholics or anything like that. We talked about this in your interview.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, a lot of times for Catholics, it's more about a facade and a religion than it's a relationship with Christ. So we would go to church, but that's all we did. Like we just went to church just to cha-ching, check mark off the list. I did my due diligence with God, and the rest of my life, I'm just going to live however I want to live.
For the 1 hour on Sunday.
Correct. 1 hour on Sunday, God, you got me. After that 1 hour on Sunday, though, God, I'm done. I'm going to go live my life the way I want to live my life, say the word, do what I want to do. And that's how I went to church. There was no, I have a relationship with Jesus. There was no, Jesus changed my life because of X, Y, and Z. It was, we go to church. In the later years, before my dad got his second divorce with my stepmom, we would become, I call them Christers. We would only go to church on Christmas and Easter.
Right. Yep.
And so really Catholic has what they call CCD, which is, I don't really remember even what it stands for, honestly.
I can't either.
But anyway, it was, you would go there to learn about the Catholic Church.
Right.
It wasn't them teaching you, they would teach the Bible, but it was the Bible according to the Catholic Church, period.
Right. I mean, the Catholic Church almost has close to their own Bible.
Close to it. Pretty close to it.
Yeah.
I mean, again, no offense to the Catholic Church, they are the oldest denomination since Christ. And so, but yeah. So to answer your question, we went to church, but we weren't following Christ. We went to church just to get the check mark off the list every Sunday.
Yeah. So you and your brother both lived together then. So your mom didn't take, y'all didn't split as far as one of y'all stayed with your dad and one stayed with the mom, right?
We didn't do that until like I said, both of my parents got remarried when I was 7.
Okay.
My mom remarried a Christian. My dad did not.
Okay.
And that will play a very pivotal part in my life. But so we were together up until our junior year of high school. And then my dad got divorced from my stepmom, and he did probably what the hardest thing any parent will ever have to do. He sat down with my brother and I with tears in his eyes and said, "I'm sorry for the way I treated y'all. I'm sorry for the way you've been living all these years. If you want to go live with your mother, you can. If you want to stay with me, you can. I'm not gonna hold anything against you. I love you both."
Wow.
And so my brother decided to go live with my mom, and I stayed and lived with my dad. So
And how was that?
It was difficult. I will tell you that much. Because
growing up, y'all were best friends, of course. Y'all were twins.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Being a twin, you have a deeper connection than most other siblings. So because, like you said, you're best friends. Like you've known this person literally since birth.
Yeah.
And so it was a little difficult. Because we didn't get a chance to talk as much. We didn't get a chance to hang out as much. Luckily, by this time, cell phones were on the picture.
Yeah.
So we had, so we had the ability to constantly communicate with each other. Did it put a strain on our relationship? A little bit, but we still talk to each other like once or multiple times a week, by that time we were both working on getting our driver's license. And so really when we both got our driver's license, it made a world of difference. Because then if I want to drive to go see my mom and my brother, I can easily go drive to see my mom and my brother and vice versa,
Yeah.
So,
And so you talk about you were Catholic. Were you, when did you cut? Because I know you were Assemblies of God. You switched to that. So when did that happen?
I would never say I was actually Catholic. I went to the Catholic Church.
Okay. Yeah.
I never want to call myself a Catholic. Because like I said before, there are multiple Catholics out here who are devoted Catholics. I was not one of them.
Yeah.
And so I like I said, I went to the Assemblies of God. It's when I actually found Christ. So when my mom and my stepdad, so like I said, my stepdad was a Christian. My mom was not. My stepdad was a Christian. And when my mom and my dad got divorced, I would go see my mom every other weekend. And and so every other weekend we had to go to church. It didn't matter if we wanted to or not. It's you're in our house, you will go to church. And so I remember, not wanting to go and everything like that. But it was in Assembly of God Church that we went to, Corner Turn Church, Winnie, Texas, represent. I still love the church, love the pastor, and communication with both the Pastor Brad, who was the youth pastor, and Pastor Kevin, who is still the pastor of Cornerstone. And so one summer between my 8th grade year and my 9th grade freshman year of high school is when I actually came to Christ. When I would say when I gave my life to Christ. It was on a Wednesday night, and I'm literally in my chair, and the speaker is up there speaking, and I don't remember even what he was talking about. I just remember he gave an altar call. And so I'm sitting there. We're in Texas, so it's like a big, youth camp. And I'm sitting there, one of the few teens just sitting there not doing anything. And I remember seeing one of my friends in line for the altar call. So I go up to my friend, and by this time I've been going to church on and off for about 3-4 years now. And so I knew how to fake, how to pray. That's how I knew what to do. And so I went over there and I laid my hands on them, and I was just like praying, had my head bowed and everything like that. And somehow or another, though, I end up in line. I say somehow, God, as the line was moving forward, I slowly shifted in line, and God was just like, I got something for you.
Yeah.
And so I literally end up in line. So the speaker came up to me and he said, "What do you need prayer for?" And I said, I prayer, like, I don't even believe there's a God. Because remember, my life was hell. I literally would get beat. I would get yelled at. I felt worthless. How could there be a God if my life is like this? How can there be a God when I don't see him anywhere in my life?
Yeah.
Besides, I'm going to tell you, what's funny is I honestly thought my stepdad was paying these people to go to church. Literally. Literally. I thought my stepdad was paying these people to go to church to make it like there was a Christ, like there was a God. Okay.
Wow.
Like, I didn't believe in God. Period. Like,
So would you call yourself an atheist at that point?
I would. I would call myself an atheist because I didn't believe there was a God. I didn't believe there was any gods. I didn't believe any of that stuff.
Okay.
And so, but I went to the teen camp because my mom wanted me to go. But in all honesty, you know why I want to go? There's girls.
Yep.
There's girls at teen camp. I mean, plenty of girls at teen camp. Okay. And literally I was, summer dating one, during teen camp. So, anyway, so we're there, and I'm in line. I'm going. I'm like, buddy, I don't believe there's a God. I don't even believe there's a God. And I remember this because he's telling me, he's like, here's what I want you to do. I want you to raise your hands, close your eyes, raise your hands, and just open up your heart. Don't think about anything else. Just open up your heart. And I'm like, what? Oh, okay. I mean, I don't care. There's not a God anyway. Who cares? Dude, it was at that moment, at that very moment, I literally came to Christ.
Wow.
Literally, my entire life flashed before my eyes. Every single sin I ever committed flashed before my eyes. And I remember I fell to the ground, and I remember vividly crying out to Jesus, like, how can you save someone like me? How can you save anyone with the life that I just had, like I have? It's not possible. And I remember this. He literally said, and this is before I knew the Bible. This is before I believed in the Bible.
Yeah.
But he said, just call on my name.
Wow.
Just call on my name.
Yeah.
And I did. I screamed Jesus at the top of my lungs. like for everyone says like you were laying there for minutes, like, and just screaming Jesus at the top of my lungs.
Wow.
And so like and so that's when I came to a relation, like, to Christ. Now,
Yeah.
the relationship didn't happen at that moment.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
There was no relationship, but that's when I gave my life to Christ. That's when he changed me. I had anger issues before that. I literally tried killing my brother twice.
Wow.
Killing my brother twice on purpose. On purpose, because of the things he did to me.
Yeah.
Like, my anger issues was there. And I remember like doing this and coming to Christ. And I come home, so the camp is Monday through Friday is what the camp was.
Right.
And like I said, this was on the Wednesday night. And I come home that Friday, and my mom looks at me and she's like, "There's something different about you.
Mm-hmm.
There's something different about you." And I just smiled at her. I said, yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. But you have to find out on Sunday.
Right.
And she's like, "What do you mean you have to find out? You have to find out what's different about me on Sunday." So literally, I made her wait 2 days. Well, day and a half. Okay, a day and a half.
Yeah.
And then, my youth pastor showed this highlight reel of, the teen camp and everything that happened. And so then it showed me, lying there, just crying out to God. And so I started carrying my Bible everywhere. I started carrying my notebook everywhere. Because this was before cell phones, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, remember when my brothers and I went two separate ways, it was post cell phones. This was pre-cell phones.
Yeah.
So you brought a notebook everywhere. So I was that guy and bringing a Bible everywhere, a notebook everywhere. I was on fire for God.
Wow.
But I didn't have a relationship.
Yeah. How was Jonathan at that time? Was he already saved at that point?
I don't want to speak on behalf of my brother.
Yeah.
Because I honestly don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't. It's either I don't know or I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's probably a little bit of both. Because I don't know what his relationship was with God or anything like that. I know that he did become a Christian, but at that moment I don't know. I don't know if he became a Christian the same time I did or not.
Yeah. So the question I was going to ask, did you ask for forgiveness for whenever you tried to kill him twice?
Now that you say that, I don't think I ever did.
Oh, okay.
Now I gotta go ask for forgiveness. I mean, he probably doesn't even remember, honestly.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we were teens, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we were teenagers, probably 12 or 13 years, and that that's 22 years ago. So he probably doesn't even remember any of that. So I'll call him tomorrow and say, "Dude, I want to ask for your forgiveness for things that you probably don't even remember." But he and I have a good relationship. I never killed him, so he's still alive. I love my bro.
Oh yeah, I love him too. So all right, so you start going through high school, and your brother leaves. He moves away.
Yeah.
One of your best friends was me going through high school, and I know I wasn't saved at that time. Nope. So how did hanging out, a brand new Christian, how did hanging out with I wouldn't say non-believers because I believed, but never giving my life to Christ until later on in life and not living like a Christian, how did that affect you on that side?
I would say that, see, my relationship with Christ started to grow. I was thinking into my word daily. I was praying constantly, like Paul says. So my relationship with Christ started to grow. And the main thing that I shifted from, not completely, but for all intentional purposes, I shifted from hanging out with people who didn't believe in God, in Christ, to hang out with people more who did. So we both have a friend, Jonathan Blake.
Right.
You know, I started hanging out with him. And then there was I would go to church as often as I could.
Yeah.
Or should I say as often as I wanted to, because like I said, that relationship wasn't there with God. And
Yeah.
so that kept me going in the direction towards Christ. And I knew, because of my past, that I can't condemn anyone because of theirs. I knew,
Right.
because of my past, I wasn't going to look down on anyone else. I was going to love them just like Christ loved me and forgave
Yeah.
me. Because even so, another part of my past in elementary school is I didn't have any friends. I had a major speech impediment where the only one that could understand me was my brother.
Wow.
And that hurt. That hurt
Yeah.
because it hurt when I would want to tell someone something and they would look at my brother and be like, what did he just say? It's like, no, I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to him. I'm talking to you. And so no one wanted to be my friend. No one wanted to be my friend. And so that baggage, along with all the stuff that was going on at home, kept coming up. And so, again, that's why I didn't really believe in God or didn't want a relationship with Christ, because how could I have a relationship when I only literally had 2 true friends outside of my brother? Okay. I only had 2 true friends. It was Joshua Beard, who I'm still friends with
Right.
to this day, and Spencer Bachman. Okay. Who literally I just reconnected with 2 weeks ago.
Wow. That's
okay.
awesome.
But those were my only 2 friends.
Yeah.
I didn't have any other friends outside of that, because no one wanted to be my friend because of my speech impediment. No one wanted to really get close to me because I was the weird guy. You know me, okay? I am crazy, okay?
Oh yeah.
I'm nuts. I am a crazy guy. I am an extreme extrovert. I love to have fun in life.
Yeah.
And I've always been that way. And not a lot of people like that. You know, a lot of people like to be reserved. They like to be the calm person. So again, my speech impediment and my and my extrovertedness tended to push people away. So so when I became a Christian, I knew I had to accept people. I had to be the person who accepted the one that no one else wanted to accept it, to bring them to Christ.
Yeah.
And that's why that's the only thing that kept me hanging out with friends and people who didn't have the same kind of belief system I did.
Right.
And so that, you know, that's what's ironic about me being a pastor now is my 2 things that go my way. It's one, my extrovertedness, you know, allows me to meet people and be bold enough to go up to a complete stranger and say, hi, I'm Josh Golightly. How are you doing? You know? And then, you know, 2, I'm loud, so I can, you know, speak in the room and everyone hear me regardless of where they're at.
Yeah, so no fancy dinner dates for you and Becky.
We do have fancy dinner dates. I tend to, you know, calm down. Or she just looks at me and be like, Joshua, I'm right here. Okay. Okay. So, that was one, like, the thing that I always tell people that God isn't just using my past.
Yeah.
My speech impediment is not completely gone. But I'm a pastor. I had a
Right.
speech impediment. I'm a
Right.
pastor. I was terrible at English. I'm a
Yeah.
pastor. Now, you don't want to read my sermon notes because you will not understand a word I say. You will
Yeah.
understand grammatically completely wrong. My sentences are run-on sentences, but I know where I'm going, but that's where it counts,
Right.
okay?
As long as you know where you're going.
I know where I'm going, man. I know where I'm going. And so
So
that's one thing that, it, when I started to have a relationship with Christ, it happened my junior year. So it was right after the divorce from my dad and my stepmom, and my brother and I went our separate ways. And
yeah.
I remember, God, I remember again at youth camp. Okay, I go to youth camp and I go up to the front and I'm like, God, I'm all yours. I'm all yours. I am surrendering my whole life to you,
Yeah.
and whatever you want from me, that's when I'm giving it to you. And that's really what like started a relationship. Because I'm like, I will
Wow.
constantly, before then, I was just reading my Bible. I would,
Yeah.
like I said, I would go to church when I wanted to go to church, which that honestly affected me also because what happened is even after the junior year is since we never grew up going to church to actually go to church, I
Yeah.
won't go to church when I personally want to go to church.
Okay.
And that's not healthy.
Right. Right.
That's not healthy. You have to be in a body of believers.
Yeah.
And so what happened though over time is I started my relationship with Christ started to go away. And I didn't actually do anything drug related or anything like that. That was all
Yeah.
pre-Christ. I never actually did drugs pre-Christ. I've
Right.
never done drugs my entire life. I drank. I would party, but I never did drugs or anything like that. And so, pre-Christ, I did all that stuff. After Christ, I'm a new creation. I'm
Yeah.
following you, Jesus. I'm going where you lead me. And so where was I going with this? So essentially what happened is I gave my life to Christ.
Yeah.
But since I wasn't going to church every week or even being with believers, even on Wednesday midweek service or anything like that, my relationship with Christ started to deteriorate.
Yeah.
So much so that when I got into college, I went to a Christian college, Southwestern Assemblies of God University.
Yeah.
I got a scholarship, okay, for that, okay, which
Yeah.
I was fantastic, blown away for. I got a scholarship, but I remember I told my mom, I told my mom and my youth pastors, I'm not ready to go. It's like, you're sure you're ready to go? You're a good Christian. You're a good man. You are ready to go to this Christian college. I'm like, no, I'm not. I am
Wow.
not ready to go to this. Because see, the thing about Christian college is I had to go to chapel every single day of the week.
Yeah.
So there was no, only one every, and then I also
Right.
had to go to church on Sundays.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's you go to chapel every day and you also go to church on Sundays.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. Why? Because
Right.
I have been so accustomed to going to church on my own terms, going to church
Right.
when I want to go to church. And so I end up hanging out with the wrong kids, the wrong people. And I would literally just go to the chapel to check off my chapel, but I would fall asleep because
Wow.
I didn't care. I
Yeah.
didn't care about God. I didn't care about Christ. I didn't care.
Wow.
And so I went from being on fire with God to not caring about God.
Yeah.
And so, I here I am. And I remember, so after that end of that semester, I told my mom all this. And I was like, I know I'm going to lose a scholarship. I know that, that scholarship helped us financially a lot.
Yeah.
And I want to go back and graduate. And I did. I went back and graduated. Okay. But I'm like, I have to take a semester off. I have to get my life back with Christ the way it should be. Because what ended up happening is I ended up lusting after people who were married, drinking alcohol while at a Christian university, okay, and smoking cigarettes.
Yeah. Wow.
All this happened while I was at a Christian university. Okay. Why? Because my life wasn't with Christ. I was going through the motions. I was just going through what I knew I should be doing.
Yeah.
And so again, I say this all story after the divorce because remember, I gave my life to God. God, I'm completely yours. But at the same time, I wasn't focusing on God. Yeah. And so I took that semester off, and I remember one Sunday, I remember the Sunday very vividly because I'm at church, my hands are lifted up, and I'm just, God, in my heart, I'm not yelling or anything. I'm singing the worship songs like I should be, but I'm crying, like literally crying because I'm like, God, I want to give you my life back. I want to give you my life back. And my pastor, who I said told nothing about this, any of this to him, he's just a man who has discernment and a man who has, the Holy Spirit. Yeah. And he looked at me. He's like, he stopped the worship service. He called two people up. One of them was me. Wow. And he looked at me. He's like, what is going on? And I told him, I was like, my life with Christ isn't where it needs to be. I want to give my life back to God. And I did. I gave my life back to God. And I tell everyone this because it was that semester break. Yeah. And the time that I lost the scholarship. Okay. But it was that semester break that led me to the person that I am today. I got my life back with Christ, and I stopped hanging out with the friends I shouldn't be hanging out with. Wow. And it led me. I found Christ again. Yeah. I found what Paul. What they say in the book of Revelations, what John says, when Jesus is talking to John, talking to the church of Ephesus. And Jesus says, you've lost your one true love. You're going through the motions, but you've lost your one true love, which is Jesus saying, your one true love is me. Come back to me. I lost my one true love. Wow. And I had to go back to Christ. Yeah. I had to, I was like, I gave myself to you once, but I'm giving myself to you again. Yeah. And that was the true turning point in my life where I now have a relationship with Christ. It wasn't just Sunday mornings was a checklist. I wanted to go to church on Sunday mornings. I went so far as to wanting to go to church on Sunday mornings. Okay. I got a job at Lowe's. Okay. And in the interview, I told them I will not work on Wednesday nights and I will not work on Sunday mornings. Period. Wow. And they're like, well, I'm like, if that doesn't work for you, then I'm not getting hired. Yeah. You'll work around Christ. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, I will not go to church on Sunday, work on Sunday mornings, and I will not work Wednesday nights. Period. Yeah. And they still gave me the job. and literally they did. I didn't start working until 2 p.m. on Sunday nights, and I got off of work at 5 o'clock on Wednesdays. Now, that was a little terrible sometimes, because some nights I will work nights. I will close at Lowe's, which didn't get me off to like 12:30 or midnight.
Wow.
And it was a 30-minute commute, okay, to the Lowe's I was working at. So
Yeah.
one way, 30 minutes, one way, 30 minutes back home. Okay. So I would get off at 11:30, drive home, get home around midnight, go to sleep around 1 o'clock, and then have to be back at work again the next morning by 6.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was a sacrifice I was willing to make, because I wanted to put Christ first in my life.
Yeah.
And so if you ever, like, for the people who are watching now, if you ever want to lose your relationship with Christ, you won't lose your salvation, but you can lose your relationship.
Yeah.
And you have to put Christ first. Make the sacrifices that need to be made to put Christ first in your life.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do.
And what work is that ultimate thing that will take you away from Christ?
It really will. It really will, especially in today's society where we want to be, we want to be successful. We want to have good careers. And so we want to put work first. Yeah. But if you put work first, Christ is going to come second.
Yeah. And the enemy uses that to, oh, well, give me a promotion and but I have to work Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings,
Well, and that's actually what almost happened I'll backtrack a little bit, because what happened is I gave my life back to Christ, went back to college, and graduated. Okay. After college, I lived in Waxahachie, where Sagu was, for a year, praying, God, where do you want me to go? Where do you want me to go? I ended up in Kentucky with a missionary there. That sort of didn't work out, but I knew a pastor there very well. And I ended up helping that church out for 3 years. During those 3 years' time, I met my beautiful bride, Becky, who we've been married now for 7 years. Wow. 6 years. We've been together now for 7 years.
Yeah.
And so I say that because when I was in Kentucky, I met Becky. We were praying about where to go. If we're getting married, what do we do? And this is where I went from Assemblies of God. I'm now part of the Church of the Nazarene. That's a completely different story in of itself. Nothing against the Assemblies of God. I still love them. And so, but basically, though, we felt that the Lord was leading us to Alaska. So we came up to Alaska. Becky is a nurse. She had a job up here. Her job was the one that paid us to get up here. Okay.
Wow.
And so I already knew I had a church lined up to hire me, but I didn't have a job yet. I was coming up, and the only person that was being paid was my wife. And it's like, Lord, I'm going up there and I will get a job. Yeah. And I was working for Lowe's, and I was having phone interview after phone interview, trying to get a manager job, trying to get a full-time customer associate job. And they all kept telling me the same thing. I can't hire you if you won't work Sunday mornings or Wednesday nights. You have to be completely available. And I kept telling them, I'm like, if that won't work for you, then I won't work for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Wow. I want to be a manager, but I cannot be at your disposal whenever you want to schedule me. I will not work Sunday mornings, and I will not work Wednesday nights. It won't happen. And so again, this is God, because we're up here. We're on our way up here. I don't have a job. She has a job. And we're halfway up here. I get a phone call, okay, on my cell phone. I get a phone call from a Lowe's store. And they're like, hey, we remember your interview. We want to offer you a position.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, I just want to clarify something here, though. I won't work Sunday mornings. I won't work Wednesday nights. Like,
Yeah.
I just want to clarify that. Those two are still my stipulations. They're like, that's fine. We can work around that. Because by this time I had been working for Lowe's for 8 years. Okay, so management knew me, and I'm like, look, all you gotta do is call my other stores, and they will vouch for me.
Right. Yeah.
And essentially, that's what got me the job. Is
Wow.
they called my other stores, and they're like, yeah, he had that same stipulation working here, but when he was here, he was a fantastic worker.
Yeah.
He never treated anyone poorly. He always did things right. He was a fantastic worker. And so, and again, that was my relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
That made me all of those things. And
So
still to this day, I mean, I'm a pastor now. I'm a church plant, so I get to work from home. But I still put Christ first in my life.
So when did God tell you that he wanted you to be a pastor?
It was my that so the junior year going into my senior year, when I said, Lord, I'm giving you my all. I'm giving you my all. That's when he called me to be a pastor.
Okay.
It's right.
So you knew
right
all
there.
along, you just, at one point, your heart wasn't ready.
No, yeah. My heart wasn't ready.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I literally changed my major like 3 times in college. Yeah. I started off as a youth pastor, then changed my major to pastoral ministries. And all of them revolved around ministry, because then I wanted to have a business degree. And so I then changed it to church ministries, where I could get double degree, which I ended up finding out I can't. I still have like 4 business classes that I need to take to actually have a bachelor's degree. But I do have 2. Oh, I pressed the wrong one. I do have 2 associate degrees. One in youth ministry, and one in actually I have 3 not associates, 3 bachelors that fall under my church ministries degree, is youth ministries, missional ministries, and business. So I went back and graduated with all 3 of those.
Wow.
So I still eventually want to finish my business degree, but I have a family now.
Yeah.
Like I said, a wife and 3 girls, and I'm like, I will not worry about that right now. So
that's amazing, man.
So God, I say this because God has used my life,
right?
In my sins and my past, and has led me to Him.
Yeah.
My past doesn't define me. I don't look at my past as a sore subject. I look at my past as something that, God, you led me through all that because you wanted me to have a story. I remember one time, I always thought as a young Christian that the pastor's kids and the kids who grew up in church had a better testimony than me, because they didn't go through the life I had. They didn't have to live the life I had. So they had a testimony that I didn't have. Theirs was better than mine. Their life was better than mine. And I remember looking at my youth pastor, okay, and I looked him square in the eye, and I said, I don't have a testimony. Wow. And I still remember this. He looks me back and he says, I never want to hear those words come out of your mouth again.
Yep.
I never want to hear those words come out of your mouth again, because your life has been worse than a lot of kids your age has been. You have gone through a lot more than a lot of kids your age have gone through. and yet here you are with Christ. Don't ever tell me you don't have a testimony.
And it's true.
It's true.
Everybody has that testimony.
Everyone has that. Everyone has that moment in their life where they can say, "This is my testimony.
Yeah.
My sins are gone. I'm washed white as snow." And this is what I learned over the years is that the people who lived a Christian life and grew up in a Christian household, their testimony is the life that Christ kept them from living. You know,
Correct.
that's their testimony. Their testimony is, that I didn't end up having to go through all this because of my relationship with Christ. That's their testimony. But one is not better than the other.
No.
My testimony isn't better than their testimony. Their testimony isn't better than mine.
Right.
So
each person needs each testimony.
Exactly. In all honesty, everyone needs to own their testimony.
Right.
Own it. Own your life. Own the life that Christ has led you through. Don't just disregard it. Don't just say it's nothing. I don't care about it. No, own the life that Christ has led you through and let that lead others to Christ. Allow that to be your witness and a light in the world that we have been called to be a light in.
That's awesome.
So, now I'm living in Alaska. I was a youth pastor up here for 3 years. Now I'm doing a church plant called Welcome Life. And yeah, if you're on this channel watching it, then you know.
Yeah.
So
and now you kind of hear a little bit of your background.
Now you know me. Now you know what led Pastor Josh to how he is today.
That's amazing.
So
well, Josh, it was fantastic to get to hear your testimony and and again, honored to be able to be the one to interview you.
Dude, thank you. Speaking of interviewing me, we got something to tell you guys watching. Is that Whiteberry is actually going to help this channel. Whiteberry is going to be interviewing people that he knows also. Yeah. So he interviewed me and he's interviewing other people, right? Right.
Yeah, I already have a couple of people, some amazing testimonies from people being atheists, exactly how you were, but he was up until a later age whenever he was an atheist to, guys that were not living for Christ and just having God just completely change their lives, even to some youth pastors that I'm going to interview. So I have quite a few coming up, and I'm excited about them. I'm ready to get them going, and I'm looking forward to get them on the channel.
I'm looking forward to them also. So be on the lookout for that. And Whiteberry, thank you for being willing to interview. Come on here and interview me. As for everyone else, if you enjoyed this interview and enjoyed Whiteberry being on with me, you can watch his whole interview right there. And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button right there. As always, guys, live a life with Christ.